I was privileged enough to make history for England because I'm the first decoy who participates in the super selection and goes to world championships representing England. So I'm very proud of that. So my name is Nake Florin from Romania. I moved to England 10 years ago. I'm a monitoring decoy. For the last 5 years, the UK has put itself on the map in the world of monitoring. We're there every year. Either it's myself decoying or handlers who reach the podium.
Any guys that may listen to that, and they want to be a decoy, what are the qualities that will decide whether you're going to be excellent or average?
What I'm about to say is valuable not just for monitoring but for every sport, especially when it's about you being a decoy. There's all sorts of small secrets and details when you decoy. Parts in the rules where if you interpret them correctly, you will get on top.
Can you share one example, for example? Do you have any, I don't know, magical or special moment that you experience on the competition or the training field that is just stuck to your mind?
Yes, in 2022, the dog that was world champion in category 2, he was very famous for the way he was doing search and escort, and I envisioned how I'm gonna take the points. This is what monitoring is about. At the world championship you get hundreds of people, right? To get that many people paying attention and then appreciating the moment, that was quite cool.
You achieved so much as a decoy. What is next for Nake?
Next for Nake is,
I really wanted to ask you about your experience with, even watching Ivan training. He's obviously huge IGP star.
Jesus Christ, it's amazing. The things that I've experienced there with him. He took my brain and he put all this information in it and said, now think about it and practice. If he's watching this, when he's gonna watch this, I hope he's not gonna get upset.
I'm gonna send it to him.
I hope he's not gonna get upset about me saying it. So finished training one day.
What are the odds that Ivan will become monitoring world champion?
Based on my humble experience, I would say.
Top of the being decoy, you are family man. How do you manage your full-time job, family, your little daughter, and a passion? Has it been any time difficult? I remember your post about after the super selection that you came third, but it felt like first because of some things you had to overcome.
When I mentioned that in that post, I found understanding from my wife, which was she realized how important that was for me to do. Although when I left for the super selection, she said to me, "If you don't come back first, you ain't coming back home."
Are you getting sausage duck for your daughter?
No, I'm not. How do you know that?
Oh, I did my research, mate.
Oh, did you?
Okay, and we are live.
Finally.
Welcome everyone. Today we have a very, very special guest, top of the food chain monitoring decoy.
Thank you very much.
Nake Florin. Thank you for taking time and coming to my mini studio. And
nice setup.
Oh, thank you. That was a lot of woodwork, as you can see. And before we'll go forward, I've got a ton of questions to you. But if there is anyone that doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself, tell who are you and what you do?
So my name is Nake Florin. I'm from Romania. I moved to England 10 years ago. And people probably don't know this, but we kind of have some history about that together, because the place where I came to work first time I moved to England is the same place that you used to work.
Yeah.
So there was an instant connection from that point forward.
I think we've met once when I was collecting something.
Yeah. We've met once
from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could technically say that we've been knowing each other since for the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
One
That's
way or
gonna be
another.
10 years.
Yeah. So I started working at this residential dog training company as a trainer. Then I was the head trainer there for a few years. From there, I moved along to working, and I'm still working there in a rescue center, one of the biggest in England. And besides that, I also practice monduring. I'm a monduring decoy. I've been doing it since 2012. Started back home in my country in Romania. Took all the natural steps that you have to take. You for the first period of time, you're just a body bag. You just take hits and bites from every possible dog. And then you go and you take your certification in your home country. At that time, it was possible to have your exam in a different country as well. Since then, the rules have changed. So my license, I've done my license in Romania. And in the same year, I went to Belgium. And I've done it there as well. And a year after that, I moved to England. Or 2 years after that, I moved to England. I needed to have a stop because when you change countries, it's not that easy as people think. And once I established and got settled here, I started the Mondial journey here as well, which was a slow start, but I'm pretty happy where I am right now with Mondialing, and then not just myself, but where English Mondialing is now.
Yeah, I should have introduced you as the guy that put like UK decoying on the
maybe decoying map. But I would say that there are also the contribution to monitoring is part decoying, part handlers, and obviously
like that's why I said decoying. Like
so so in terms of decoying, I've got I was privileged enough to kind of like make history for England because the first decoy who participates in the super selection and goes to world championships representing England. So I'm very proud of that. And you know I do like statistics when it comes to that. So for the last few years, I would say 5 years, the UK has put itself on the map in the world of mondialing. And you know, if I make a report between what achievement has England got, the UK got, and the number of people that are practicing decoys, handlers, it's pretty decent. We don't have yet such a big legacy like other countries like France, Belgium, Austria. But we're there, and we're there every year. Either it's myself decoying or handlers who reach the podium. It's interesting.
Definitely, mondialing grew up when I remember when I was taking my dog, my current like Fofik. I wanted to do mondialing, and it was like almost not existent. Like
do you remember we had sessions where we trained? We once trained. I remember I came in an area where I don't know if you used to live there or not, but we came and we trained somewhere into a wooden area. And then we had a training session at there was an event where someone asked me to go and teach about decoying, and then you came along and we trained there for a bit. And then after I got my license, I've managed to find a place where I started my club. And for a while, we've trained together, and we had a nice group then. And obviously, you know how in dog training, in the world of dog training, groups are, they always evolve and change, and people come and go.
Get to details, maybe.
People come and go, which is, I think, is natural. And as long as you just keep looking forward, there's no problem with whatever has been in the past. All you can do is just learn from it. But yeah, when you wanted to do it, it was just like opening its eyes a bit.
Yeah, like I had to have like some connections so I could go and train with John. And it wasn't like open there was no clubs, there was no like availability. I was chasing you to get like some training session. Nobody was doing it
structured and
structured. Like, of course, John was doing it for 20 years or even more. Like, I don't know, like, but he kind of put the Mondiering on the map.
Yeah, because in the past he had a
great achievement.
Great achievement as well. And just for a mention, when Alex says about John, his name is John Rumble, and he's the president of the Mondiering Association.
Yeah, I just assume like everybody knows John. Like, if you say John,
probably they do. Probably like they do. But for everyone who's just doing research now. Mondiering in UK has a structural association with a board, and I'm privileged to be part of the board as the decoy officer.
What is so special about Mondiering? So you are so passionate about that. Maybe even explain what is the key elements or the purpose of the sport,
right?
Like, what the sport is serving in the dog world.
So the Mondiering is years ago people got together that were doing other sports, and they basically took elements of French ring and Belgian ring and I think it's called in English would be called campaign or campagne in France. Elements of sports that they established to put together, because French ring, as the name itself comes from French, from France, and then Belgian ring, similar, was very heavily, and it still is practiced in Belgium. So they put together Mondiering, and Mondio means world, right?
Yeah.
So the purpose was to create a sport that everyone around the world will be able to practice.
Yeah.
Now, when you're looking at the technical aspect of it, purpose of the sport will be to highlight the genetics of the dogs and also the quality of training. Because it's not rare that dogs that are highly successful in the sport of Mondiering, their offsprings, either male or female, end up being service dogs. And obviously, to be a service dog, you need to have a certain genetic makeup that can resist and can accompany the training elements for that specific service. So you're talking about detection dogs or army dogs or police dogs. So overall, besides being a structured activity for passionate people that like to practice sports, either you're just a handler or a dog trainer, or you're involved in dog business or anything like that. So besides the hobby aspect of it, there is a defined purpose where the best dogs are selected based on their genetic makeup and on the quality of training that the handlers are providing to their dogs.
What is your take to do the protection sports as a hobby? Like, I'm asking because I kind of promote like the sport should be more available, whether it's IGP or Mondiering. Just, like, the goal of this podcast is to bring the good light on the sport,
right?
Because right now everything is exposed, and to give you a little bit more context, the bigger we are, the stronger we are.
Exactly, yeah.
And our sports are at risk because there were like several, let's call it, attacks on, and then there were some people that they were trying to ban the protection sports. Let's say years ago in France, like more recent in Austria.
Yeah.
So I believe that it would be great if, like John with Scooby could take the part as a hobby, not necessarily to, like for breeding, not necessarily to win world championships. It's just like, let's go on the Sunday and do the sport. Like, what is your take about, promoting Mondiering for, not necessarily for those selection purposes,
right?
But also like, so people have like, hobby.
Right. So I'm going to address Mondiering, but it's valid for IGP as well, and probably for other structured sports as well. When I think personally, when people get involved in sports, just the fact that there's a certain aim they have to achieve already brings a certain structure that they will need to be able to follow and fulfill in order to achieve whatever they establish for themselves to achieve in that sport. Some people want to be world championships, some people want to title the dog, some people just want to practice the dog. Regardless of what the main goal is, automatically by getting involved, you will have to think a lot about training, which automatically will make you as a handler a better one. You will also be able to provide the natural outlet for your dog, especially when it comes to breed-specific traits, which people often miss or don't pay attention to. And all of those things, the fact that you're structuring yourself as a handler and you're providing the correct outlets for your dog, it's only going to flourish your relationship with your dog, create enough experience that you can then pass on to your next dog, or if you're a trainer, you can pass on to your normal business if you have to your average pet dog or pet dog owner. So I think the fact that people practice sports or they want to get involved in sports, it's only going to bring them benefits for themselves as handlers, and obviously for their dogs. Now, obviously, every sport is different, and to achieve a certain thing will take a certain amount of time, which will also teach you patience.
Yeah.
Which is an extremely how do I say this? This quality of being patient in the world of dog training, even as a trainer, you need to have it. It's like you can't drive a car without the steering wheel. And if you don't have patience when you're training a dog, it's probably something you need to work on. And by default, sports teach you that, because when someone, for example, you get someone new that's interested in the sport, and I get all these messages all the time, and I just happily invite them to where I train at the field, and they come there, they see the session, and then they ask the question, how long did it take for that dog to do all those exercises? And then you hit them with, oh, he's been training for 2.5 years. He's only got 2 competitions or 3 or whatever the case is for that individual dog. And that raises a question mark in their head. And people who are committed will follow that. But I would say that once you fall into training, at least for a short period of time, and it has to be consecutive training sessions, then it's really hard to get out of it. And I'll give you an example. Right now at the club where I train, I've got a dog. She's a Mali rescue, so no FCI paperwork, which are a requirement in the sport. But the handlers, her handlers have been there for almost 2 years. And the reason why is because they were attracted to the sports. They wanted to give the dog an outlet. Mali Cross, without paperwork, it doesn't mean it doesn't exhibit malinois behavior, right? So what she set up for herself and her husband as well is, we're going to train her exactly as any other dog in monitoring. We know we cannot compete with her, but we will learn all the rules. The dog will learn all the technicalities and all the things that they have to do in terms of obedience and jumps and bite work. And that has an influence upon how the dog is at home, because they, for example, before the training session on Sunday where we train, they are already prepping her with a few days before. In between sessions, based on what we done last session, in between them, they have some homework that they practice. So you can see just the fact that they practice the sport, it already has an influence on their day-to-day life, which made that dog a better dog. She's sociable with people, sociable with dogs, but she can bite, right? Which is, biting on the suit and biting on a tag for a lot of people may look different. It's not that different unless you change what we talked about, unless you go from a sport to a service where things, radically change, because dogs on services, they can't play around. They're meant to save lives. So that's a whole different aspect.
But it's a beautiful example about what sort of benefits the participation in the sport can bring into the dogs and people's life. I really like the fact that you mentioned the relationship. I think I have like this crazy theory that if you are fighting together with your dog against the decoy, it's just the best relationship builder, because like how you are like tapping into those primal instincts of defending your pack, kind of, and it's in a very structured environment. Like the fact that the dog is biting the decoy or fighting the decoy doesn't necessarily mean we'll be biting like people on the streets, right? Like quite opposite, right?
Absolutely.
Quite opposite is if you send your child to karate class, that
my daughter does judo now.
Yeah,
she's not slamming kids.
yeah,
it's cool, right?
That's the thing. It's teaching like discipline. It's teaching self-control.
Yeah.
This is why those sports are so beneficial, and you can get a lot of benefits from participation in the sport into everyday life. I tend to say if you can control your dog around the decoy properly, you can control your dog everywhere.
Absolutely.
I'm doing so little companion dog training with my dogs. Like,
right.
I'm training sport, and relationship is built over there. Input control is control over there, and you're just like taking those skills into everyday life, which is not that.
And I think you're an experienced dog trainer, and you know what you're doing, and you know when you're doing it. But the average person, if they will practice the sport and don't think about the sociable aspect, when they then take their dog on the street, they will probably say or mimic the same things they would do on the training field, and the dog will respond to them. So they will probably do it unconsciously towards their dog and in the environment that they're in. So I think it's the side effect of practicing a sport has touches in multiple areas. But highlighting the fact that highlighting the relationship aspect, it's I think one of the most important important things that sport can actually give you.
Definitely. Let's go back to your career as a decoy.
Yeah,
you mentioned you started in Romania, right? 1 second. Let me just. Do you remember? Dog name Hera, the Malinois.
Yeah.
That you took the first face attack. Am I right?
Yeah, I did. I do.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about those days, right? Have you had a mentor? Was that a club? How did you, or just a group of friends? Let's do some mentoring.
Talking about Hera, I can swear on this.
Yeah, fuck it.
I was shit. I was absolutely shit, right? when I started. Not because my physical abilities to do monitoring were always there, because I've done professional sport until 19, 20. But when I took my first proper bite, it was a leg sleeve. I was shit. I was very bad at it. I would just stood there, and the dog just did whatever she wanted with me. Just grabbed me and swung me left, right, and center. And the guy who owned Hera at that time, which is one of my good friends today, his name is Alex Davidescu. He's also a monitoring decoy as well. He asked me afterwards, "How was it?" I said, "Yeah, I think it was all right. I have no idea what you expected me to do." So monitoring started with a group of friends. where that was Alex was part of it. It's at that time similar to England. Mondiering didn't have too many dogs in Romania. There were only a few that were practicing, and we all got together one night to have a discussion. I knew a couple of people. They knew we were about 6 or 7. A few of them knew the other one. So not everyone knew each other, but we heard of each other, right? So we got together one night. We discussed how we would like things to move forward. And after we had the discussion, everyone, said their thoughts and ideas. And after we had those moments of conversation, then we just took some dogs out and we started training. And there were a bit more experienced people there, and I was eager to sit on the side and watch and see exactly what they do. And then once they finish, I was like, can I have a go? And then they were like physically getting me to like, you stay like this, you move like that. So pretty much that's how it started. And then groups grow bigger, or they don't grow any bigger. They stay like that, or they go smaller. It was a nice conversation one night between people who wanted to practice the sport. We just went from there, and then soon enough we had dogs to compete. I was in the bite suit. I remember I had a call one day I did have a mentor when it comes to practically being in the suit and being taught what to do. His name is George Laurențiu Bratu. You'll probably find him on Instagram. He's a breeder as well. He is the first man that put me in the suit, and I thank him to this day for doing so. He believed me even when I didn't know what I was doing, just because he saw me a couple of times. I remember one of the training sessions that I had with him was, how in mondiering, when a dog comes really fast, when the impact is happening, you need to make sure you absorb the dog, so neither the dog or yourself gets into any trouble. So do you know how my training looked like back in those days?
Yeah.
Because this is the hard part of the training that was happening then. So I used to be I had a bite suit on, and he had the military boots on, and he used to stay in front of me and put his hand on my shoulders and say, I am going to touch your shins now. And despite the fact that I had the bite suit on, when he would touch me with those boots, I could still feel the impact of them, right? So he would say, whenever you feel the slightest touch, or the idea is don't let me touch you, but you just have to pay attention what leg I'm doing it with by walking backwards. So there's a lot of things that goes through your head, because he has his hands on my shoulders and I'm trying to move backwards. He's holding me not to go that fast, right? So there's a lot of pressure, which is exactly what happens when you decoy, right? There's all this pressure that comes from the outside. You need to understand the rules, so on and forth. But yeah, he was basically kicking my shins, and I was supposed to move them back.
This is how you learn.
Yeah, that's how I learned back then. But it was a valuable lesson, and it worked well for me.
All right.
Yeah, those were the early stages of my career in mondiering.
Yeah, when I met you for the first time, and you worked my dog, I'm not gonna lie, I was super impressed. Like the fluency of the movement, how you move like with the dog, it was so tight, and like there was no like. Occasionally you see even experienced trainers, but they look a little bit awkward, like when they move with the dog. And then since then I was telling like everyone, like this guy is a cat, right? Like before you were famous and shit, right? I was saying like this guy is a cat. Like some of the guys, they were like, oh, I can dodge the dog as well. But I'm like, it was hard not to appreciate your athleticism, right? You mentioned that you were professional athlete.
Yeah.
Like to you're 20, 19 or 20,
yeah.
right? How much that helped you with?
A lot.
Yeah.
Massively. The professional athlete in Eastern Europe, you play football, soccer, whatever, right? Yeah, football. And even so, to make a parallel between sports and professional athlete, it brings structure. I had to wake up every morning, go to training, go to school, come back home, rest for training, eat properly, so on and forth, right? So that helped me because, football is it's a sport where you go along with it based on the qualities that you have, right? I'm not the tallest, but I know I'm fast, and I was even faster when I was younger. So, for example, football, and we were talking earlier about how to absorb a dog. When you get a powerful pass and the ball comes at you, in order to stop the ball at your feet, you have to have your leg, the ball will hit your leg, and you have to bounce your leg backwards. So the ball stays exactly, so it doesn't jump 2-3 meters away so the opponent can get it. So that movement of the ball hitting your foot and then you managing to stop the ball there, it's similar to when a dog bites you and you move your dog backwards. But practicing football for so many years, those movements became like second nature to me. I don't think of them. Similar to how I do now with dogs. I don't think when the dog comes, I need to absorb it. I just feel the dog and see last second where the dog is looking to bite, or I can see where the dog is turning its head, or where the dog is going to go on my left leg, on my right leg, if he's going to go up, if he's going to go straight in the middle. So the visual aspect of it already kind of communicates with my brain. This is the next step. But I don't think of it. I just do it because it's like second nature. Obviously after years of doing it repeatedly, it becomes you don't think of those things when you actually do them. But yeah, to answer your question, professional structured sport helped me massively with mountaineering, especially with the decoy aspect of it.
Like for any guys that may listen to that, and they want to be a decoy, what are the qualities that will decide whether you're going to be excellent or average? Is it athleticism? Is it mindset? Is it reading a dog? What is your
all of them?
All of them.
All of them.
You have to have the.
You have to be athletic to a certain degree because wearing a heavy suit on you is not the easiest bit. I would ask anyone that hasn't been in a suit, put a suit on and then walk.
Yeah.
See how you feel.
Not to mention run.
Not to mention run or jump, right? Because I've done this with just for fun with my friends and my colleagues at work. Whenever I had my suit, me put it on, and everyone, 9 people out of 10, they would put the suit on and then they would go, "How do you move in this thing?"
Yeah.
Which is natural, right?
Yeah.
And to make a point, the suit that they have, it was my competition suit, but you've got competition, semi-competition, semi-training, which gets heavier, and the suit gets heavier and heavier, right? So yes, you need to like it, you need to love it, because the moment you love it, that's the moment you actually care about what you're doing, that will push you to improve whatever you're lacking as a person who gets in the suit. Besides all that, whenever because I recently done decoy seminars as well abroad. I've done one in Poland actually.
All right, nice.
And this is valuable. What I'm about to say is valuable not just for mountaineering but for every sport, especially when it's about you being a decoy. Learn the rules.
Yeah.
Massively learn the rules of what you have to do as a decoy in a competition. And the reason why I look at it that way is because if I know what I have to do as a decoy in a competition, I know how to train. I know how to train to reach that level, both from a perspective of a decoy, as in I'm supposed to take the points now. And at the other extreme, where from a decoy that helps the dog to reach that point, where you teach the dog, don't lose those points in that manner, right? So besides the physical aspect, and everyone is, like I said, everyone is different. The other decoy which has a license in this country, and you know him very well, Aaron James. There's a massive physical difference between me and him, right? He's way taller. So to give you an example, why the physical reference is important. For the stick attack, you have to create a blockage, a barrage, right? Now, look at the dog's perspective. When I do it, itty tiny thing, blocking the dog, and then when Aaron does it. It's a big, massive visual difference for the dog. And I've seen dogs running at him and him blocking the dog and then going, whoa. And this slowing down, that can cost you points. They're not going to slow down with me because I'm an easier target to visualize, and I'm not that impressive when I bend over to try to block the dog. But when he does it, and that's his natural ability, right? So natural abilities are important, the physical aspect of it. The mindset as well, which you mentioned, it's also important because with the mindset comes what I said earlier, the rules. But yeah, the first thing that I say to people, what I would like to learn about decoy when I want to be a decoy, I would say learn the rules first.
All right.
Just take the book, read it. And now we've got the advantage of having access to being able to visualize everything about dogs. You know, YouTube it's an endless resource for things.
You mentioned you started 2012.
Yeah.
Right. So the YouTube was like for, I don't know, 8 years.
So it was.
There was no.
But YouTube was
back then.
And even the quality of the videos wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So you were, struggling to see in detail. Sorry, whatever was out there. But now everything is, so much better and so much easier accessible. So I would say read the rules and then just look at competitions and see what the decoys are doing. And then you will read the rules and then you'll go, wait, why has the decoy done that? And then you will understand based on what the decoy did, how it fits into the rules. And once you know that, when you actually go to practice and see the dog in front of you, it's not going to be easy at the beginning, but practice makes things better with time.
I wanted to ask you about, you moved to UK and you've made your license over here. How did you prepare for the licensing? Because you haven't had a club yet, if I remember correctly. And for me, it's like fucking bonkers to prepare for the test without, do you feel you had a little bit disadvantage versus the guys that, let's say in Belgium, or in France?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're in the clubs, 20 dogs 3 times a week, and they can practice, right?
Yeah. To be fair, I've done that. I've been in Belgium when I've done my license in Belgium in 2013. I've done that I was there for 10 days with the last couple of days of testing and then competing as well. It was every day. Every day there were dogs coming there and you would just be in the suit and get in the suit in the morning and then change, get out at night. When I say night, I mean 9, 10 because they had, lights like a football field, so you can train at night as well. So obviously from a logistical point of view, countries which have a bigger legacy in the dog sport, like France and Belgium and Austria, so on and forth, they do have a bigger advantage over there. When I've done my license here, I was screaming and hoping for it. I must have terrorized John with phone calls and messages. When is it happening? When is it happening? And the reason why it took so long is because you have to, in order to organize a licensing event, you have to go by the FCI rules. And the FCI rules state that the judge who's allowed to be involved and judge those decoys have to be of British nationality. And there's only one judge that has that.
All right.
Right. So until that judge, and name is Margie McKenna, she had availability. That took some time. To organize a licensing, you also need dogs that will show that the decoys are ready to be official monitoring decoys. And we didn't have any in England, right? And when I say dogs, sorry, I mean dogs that have passed monitoring exams, right? Because you need level 1, level 2, level 3 dog. You need to go through every category. And for that reason, the British Monitoring Association requested a specific, a special order from the FCI where our licensing had to be organized outside the UK. Luckily, it was just in France, which was very close to the tunnel. So all of those things had to be put in place. That's why it actually took so long. But yeah, I did not have dogs to prepare, like none.
Yeah.
So what I did was, besides the physical preparation for it, I used to get my friend to have a broom.
Yeah.
And I would act like that is a dog for object guard and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah. Amazing.
You can probably cut this off.
Don't worry. We're gonna edit shit out. So, yeah. I don't know. People realize how impressive that is to go for the test, pass. The test, and without having actual dogs to
that was something,
right? When I did only IGP license in this country. I didn't have any ambitions to be on the competitions, but I was just in the club, and they wanted to organize the trial, so they needed a helper. So that was the only reason. And then I was passing my license with the twisted ankle and with no dogs for a long flight. And it was just and then availability of the dogs, because I didn't have any dog to pass on. And after during the licensing, I thought, okay, I don't have a dog. And usually on that level, the first test is you get the dog from the club. I didn't have any. And then in the last minute, my mate, he sourced me some dog that I never seen before, and I could pass the license, right? But it's super, super impressive that you managed to prepare for such a difficult test. It's not an easy test, right?
No, it's not. And then the scoring of it. So the licensing to be a decoy in itself for monitoring requires to pass a physical test, pass a theoretical test. It can be verbal or it can be a written exam. But the practical aspect of it, you have to decoy all exercises in all 3 categories. Right, so those are a lot of exercises, and you need to be concentrated, you need to be fit to do all of them. And not having a dog to practice them made it difficult. But when you're passionate about something, you find ways to train with whatever you've got available, right?
Yeah.
So I used to go in the park to run, to make my timings for the kilometer which is involved in the test. And I also had a bamboo stick, a Mondio bamboo stick. And in the park I used to simulate. I would pretend there's a handler and a dog.
Yeah.
And I would pretend there's a judge who gives me the signal, and I would start the exercise and run to the contact point, and then I would pretend the dog has come, and I would put pressure, so on and forth. There was no dog involved, but it was just me and the stick, and probably people were like, what is that guy doing there? He's crazy with that stick.
Yeah.
But those things actually helped me, because when there's all sorts of small secrets and details when you decoy, especially when you decoy for a license or a super selection, there's all sorts of parts in the rules where if you interpret them correctly, you will get on top.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of people who, and I've been to super selection, and I've seen how people have missed those details. That's why the ranking wasn't as high as they hoped. It wasn't like they weren't prepared. They were able to catch a dog, create the level of resistance necessary, but there's small details which gets you on top of the other one if you pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Right? And those small details, if you want, you can practice them without a dog.
Okay. Can you share like one example, for example?
In the super selection, you have accessory attack. And you do 2 accessory attacks, one after the other. Okay? And when you start the exercise, you start the exercise with a stick to attract the dog. Now, when you look at the score sheet of an accessory attack, it's departure, attack, and return. That's how the exercise is scored for the dog. The departure one is the judge is looking at the dog to see if the dog crawls in front from the handler, or if the dog leaves before the authorization from the handler, right? And why does that happen? Because the decoy starts to attract the dog, right? Now, having 2 accessories attacks, one after another, if on the first attack you start the exercise and you attract the dog in a certain way, when you do the next one, you can't really do it exactly the same, right? You can't attract the dog exactly in the same manner. Because the judge wants to see your imagination, your personal input into... The judge wants to see you try to take those 10 points away.
Okay.
Right? So when I start an exercise, I start in a certain way. But then if I do the same exercise again, like the example with accessories, when I start the exercise, I will try to charge at the dog differently. Because I will try to make that dog lose those 10 points. And their decoys were just tapping the stick twice and then running to the attack, eager to do the attack, right? So that's one example of a detail that can make a difference.
My question would be like, do you mean to accessories attack for the same dog in the row? For the same dog?
Yeah, it's so like when you do super selection, the dog is not scored. But what the judge wants to see is your imagination and obviously your skill of using the accessory and blocking the dog and so on and forth. But the understanding of the rules that you have. Right? How do you, as a decoy, interpret the rules? And how do you put them in practice in order to show the judge, look, judge, I've tried this way, the dog didn't move. Now I'm trying this way. If the dog moves, then the judge goes, well done.
Okay.
That dog is not ready to be a world championship.
Okay.
That needs more training.
Yeah.
And that's how you make the difference between one dog and
my
another.
question was like, because of if that would be 2 different dogs on the competition.
So on the competition, it would be 2 different dogs, right?
2 different dogs. However, would you change how you attract the dog from dog to dog, or you want to be fair to each dog and you do it the same way?
When it comes to super selection, it's different than the competition, right? Because every competition in monitoring has what is called a white dog. The white dog is it's a dog that can be controlled on the leash, on the lead, by the handlers to go in detail with the handlers and the decoys over the exercises. The direction of the exercises was the retrieve. Where do you do defense of the handler? Where do you do the object guard? It's basically it's a dog that will give an example of each exercise that every handler who is competing is going to be able to physically watch, right? And the way I present myself as a decoy at the white dog, that's how I have to present myself in competition up to a certain point. Because if the white dog comes on my left leg, I will take, for example, stick attack. I will block it. I will block my left leg. I will block the access to my left leg for that dog. But if a dog comes up, I'm not gonna block my left leg because I've done it in wide dog. So when it comes to decoying in a competition, you take the rules, and the way you change, if there's anything to change, is based on a decision you take in a split second, based on what the dog is showing you, right? But the way I, for example, start the exercise in a wide dog, that's how I will start for all the dogs in that competition. And some dogs will lose those 10 points, some dogs won't.
Okay. Question about decoying on the competition for the dogs that you trained. Like there are some opinions on it, like from other decoys that I've heard, and I would like to hear your take on it, maybe in a little bit greater details, because you want to be fair to the dog, and you pretty much want to, you know, you want to take the points, but you don't want to treat like one dog harder than another softer. That wouldn't be sportsmanship, right? So you want to be fair to the dogs. However, there is something like, I've heard some opinions from the guys that, you know, like if they are going for the world championship, and then on the world championships there is a decoy that they train with, they say it's harder for them because of that decoy knows all the weaknesses of the dog, right? So arguably can take more points of it, right? And another thing is like, if you are pardon?
Arguably.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I had feeling that some decoys are like kind of proud of it. Like, oh, like I know this dog, I know weaknesses, I will take, you know, as much as I can. However, if you are training a dog, shouldn't you teach all the tricks so the dog is not surprised? If you know what I mean, right? So what is your take on it? Because like, I'm trying to wrap my head around, you know, like if you have a strange dog, you don't know the weaknesses, you should be acting the same way like for the dogs that you know. So why some handlers are saying like, you know, passing the test on the decoy that they know is harder than on the strange one?
I'll tell you what I think, and then I'll tell you a personal experience based on this example, right? So first things first, I take my decoying very seriously. And when I'm in a competition, the fact that we're friends and we train together doesn't really matter for me. I know what I have to do for each exercise, for each category, and I will do the same for every dog based on what I see in front of me. Everyone trains and thinks of the competition the way they want to do it, but at the end of the day, my license it's in the judges' hands. And the judges are so experienced that they will be able to say you've been less for a dog and you've been more for another one, right? And I personally don't want to put myself in that position. So when it comes to training, yes, I can teach the dogs all the tricks, and I do that when I train, right? I teach them what they have to do in certain situations, and I work on the mindset, so on and forth. But the competition is a competition. There's so many variables on the day of the competition that I can teach you all the tricks in the world, but if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day, right? That's kind of the beauty of dog sports. You can feel 1,000% prepared, and then it's slippery because it's been raining that day, and then the dog jumps the obstacle and it slips and it goes 2 meters wide. Then there goes your points, right? So when I say variables, that's one example, right? But from my personal point of view, I respect the sport and I respect the rules, and I know what I have to do as a decoy. And I respect the other handlers as much as I respect the people I train with. And I would never favor any dog, or I would never be stronger with another dog just because I know what that dog will do. Do you know how many dogs at the World Championship I knew where they were coming? But it didn't matter. I acted the same. And at the end of the World Championship and months after, when I was judged by the same judge that was there, I asked for feedback like, no, everything was good. And to give you an example of that, in 2022, UK had a good result in category 2. A dog was on the podium, third place in Spain, and I was the decoy that competed against the dog, right? And here comes defense of the handler,
all right,
where I was hidden in a small house thingy, right? And the first attack that the dog had was with the other decoy. The second attack was with me, and the dog went, "Whoa, you're here!"
All right,
you could see the attitude of the dog changing, right? And the dog I did a stick attack. The dog did well, came and bit, went back, all okay. And here comes the defense of the handler. Now the dog knows me, loves to train with me, because in training, you have got moments where you give the dog satisfaction and you let the dog bite a bit longer and so on and so forth, right? So now the dog is aware I'm there. At the defense of the handler, I was hidden in the house, and the exercise started with the handler and the other decoy walking towards that house, and they would knock on the door. So they knocked the first time. Me inside, I would say, "Yeah, who's there?" Knock again, and when they knocked the second time, I would push the door open.
Yeah,
the handler was at a suitable distance.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So I can open the door, and when I pushed the door open, what did the dog do? Came and bit me.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep. Exercise over. Right? So there is not always that you're going to favor the dog. Things like that can happen. Right? That's a minus, right? If you want to take a plus, when it came to search and escort, I was the decoy who was doing it. The dog was adamant of finding me.
Oh,
he found me really, really fast, right?
Yeah.
So there's always pluses and minuses. And it's not the case of the fact that you train with a dog is always going to go in your favor. And this is the best example I can give you is what I just said. The dog that was training with me lost the defense of the handler purely because it realized, oh, it's you, and I can't help myself now, right? Which again pushed the point that that dog needed more training in that when the dog was in that, high arousal state in my presence, the dog couldn't control itself, that it bit in an anticipated manner. So that pointed out that the dog needs more training in that area, and that's why that dog wasn't the second or the first, it was the third.
All right.
Right? So yeah, you've got advantages and disadvantages when it comes to that. You're not automatically going to favor the dog. But as a personal view, I would never go into the area of favoring or not favoring a dog just because I know them. Nothing. I think that's, at least for me, that's the right thing to think about it and have that mentality, because you're fair to the sport, you're fair to yourself, you're fair to the judges, and most importantly, you're fair to the competitors that are on the field. If you would compete with Fufik and I would be against you, I would say, okay, we train together, but if I can take the points, I'll take them.
Yeah.
Then we can be friends again, and we know what we can work for.
Definitely. This is something what I really appreciate in decoy work, and something what we don't have in IGP, that there is this element of creativity and freedom, what you can do on the competition, of course, within the rule book. But like in IGP, you can't be that creative. You have you can be to some degree, but it's not like in mondiering. But going back to athleticism, right? We chatted about that before. How do you make sure that your body is, or you are physically ready for the competitions?
I mean, it's really up to everyone. Me personally, looking at the sport, you said earlier that guy's a cat. You need to be as fluid as possible, because the movements of the decoy were required to do so. And there's a big emphasis on stamina, so you have to resist being in that suit for a long period of time. I personally run and go to the gym to do so, to keep my strength at a certain level and to have my my stamina up. But when during decoy work, it's a lot about being explosive on short periods of time, recover, and do it again a minute or 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
So when you train your body to be ready for monitoring for a competition, besides the general stamina that you want to have, I personally train those specific elements. I put my body under stress, under intensity for short periods of time, take a small break, and then do it again. And then, I measure the timing and how much pressure, so on and forth. Because that's just how the structure of the decoy work is set up, right? I do, for example, I do the stick attack where I need to start the exercise, run to the attack point, put pressure on the dog for 10 seconds, then the dog goes back. I go out of the field because the decoy is doing an accessory attack. Then I go in and do the flea attack, or I go in and do the search and escort. So you can see how the intensity in the body goes high, stays there for a short period of time, then comes back down. Yeah, this is how it normally goes in monitoring and when it comes to decoying. So besides the general aspect of training to be powerful and have stamina, I think as a decoy you need to train those specific things to address them directly.
And on the world level, on the world competition, you are also doing this all day, right? For several hours, and you have to keep your mental sharpness. And so that is also something to take into account, I guess.
Yeah, so everyone's different. For example, I didn't realize up until recently that I am that superstitious.
Okay.
So, for example, I would start the competition, and I would, when it's my turn to go in, I would see where the dog is with the jumps, because after the jumps comes the bite work, and I would start putting my jacket on and locking my jacket and getting ready into a certain spot at a certain time. And if the attack was great, I would do the same thing for the rest of the competition.
Okay.
So let's say the last jump is the let's take level 3, for example. The last jump is the long jump. As soon as the dog gets ready for the long jump, I will start putting my jacket on into a certain place of where I am.
Okay.
And if everything was okay after that dog, I would do exactly the same thing.
All right.
That's just me.
Man,
Right?
I was going to ask you about your routines and if you are getting, nervous or stressed before, decoying on the big competitions. No, like you're just confident.
I enjoy it.
All right.
I enjoy it, and I know the rules, and the reason why I know that is because my grades on my personal scorebook are excellent, all of them. So, and that's not just by one judge. That's that's multiple judges in multiple places. I've been to the States and done it. I've been all over Europe. I've done it here in England. So it's multiple. You bump into the same judge on multiple occasions, but I had plenty of judges who have judged me, and judges who have been at the world champ. So it's not like they're new in the game as well. You have people with a lot of experience, and I got some great feedback, and I know the rules. So I get excited by it. And sometimes you see a dog and you go, "Ooh, that's gonna be a hard hit."
Yeah.
But you don't get there, and you start thinking about, "Oh, I'm not ready for this."
Right.
It's not like that.
Like confidence lays in skills, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And once
you
you, and as a decoy, when you are in a competition, you go against dogs that you haven't seen in your life, right? And you briefly look at them. And I always look, for example, at the jumps, because especially in category 3, dogs are that experienced that they know what's coming after the jump, right? You can already see them at the jumps. The handler puts them in a static position, and instead of looking at the jump, the dogs are like, where is he? Right? They start looking after the decoy. So I look at them, and the speed that they have at the jump, I can tell how fast they're. Somehow I can anticipate how fast they're gonna be on the bite. And if, for example, if I'm not doing the first exercise and the other decoy is doing it, based on how the dog runs, how fast it goes for the bite, I can tell how ready I need to be in order to be able to go absolutely ready for the dog. Again, like we talked earlier, small details that you take from certain things which are not in a rule book, or it's just experience. I would guess. You can say that.
I think this is very valuable for like upcoming decoys, like information like that.
Yeah. So to give you another example, you do in category 3, you've got flea attack and stopped flea attack, right? So let's say, for example, the flea attack is the stopped flea attack is first, and you run, and the dog gets closer to bite you and gets the recall from the handler, and the dog turns away from you on your right or on your left. So based on which side the dog turns, you can put a bet on it that 70% of the time on that side the dog is going to bite.
All right. Yeah, interesting.
Right, so small details like that can actually help you. Obviously, every dog is different, so that's why I didn't say 100%.
Yeah.
Because there are variables based on the technique that the dog knows. But most of the time, the dog turns on its right and goes back. Most of the time, when he's gonna bite you, he's gonna come on your right hand.
All right. Which exercise is your favorite? Like
search and escort.
Search and escort. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Why is it? Like, why is it?
You got freedom.
You
got freedom, and one of my best qualities in monitoring is speed. Right, I'm pretty fast naturally, which was one of my qualities when I used to play football. Right, and I know the rules very well, and I know how to take advantage of them. Right, so. And I know how, in my vision, a dog should behave, and I know what to look for. I know how to. One of the judges recently last year, when I've done Austrian nationals, he said, I really liked how you did the search and escort because you took the time to read the dogs very well. When I got to the World Championship in 2022, one of the judges said, I want you to do the escort because I saw videos of you and you do it very well. So now I was very happy about it. But yeah, search and escort is my favorite exercise because it gives you the ability to show your skill as a decoy without having that much of a structure when you're about to take the points away from the dogs, right? Because you've got, in category 3, for example, you've got 2 obstacles that you can use to run away from the dog with 3 attempts that you can practice over that obstacle in order to create the space or the momentum to run away from the dog. And that just goes to the skill of the decoy, right? So me, for example, to go a bit into detail how I see it, wherever the dog finds me in the blind, by the time I get to the first obstacle, I try different things to see what the dog is comfortable or not comfortable with. Just small, let's say the dog starts on my left, right? And on my way to the obstacle, I'll see what happens if I try to put the dog on the right. If the dog goes comfortably on my right, they say, okay, he's gonna give me something to work with. If the dog comes back, continue. If I give the dog the possibility and I try to make the dog understand that right, it's easier to stay on the right now, on my right side, rather than go back, put the effort to go back on the left. and the dog goes back on my left side, then I know one of the first things that I do when I get to the obstacle is eliminate that possibility.
All right.
So when I eliminate that possibility, then I see what the dog thinks of it next. Does the dog comfortably stays on any other position, or the dog struggles to get back on my left? Because when that happens, the dog, in my personal opinion, the dog doesn't escort anymore. The dog goes into obedience mode.
All right.
Right? So the dog is then going, I need to be on the left. I absolutely need to be on the left. I don't care about, I can go in between the legs from behind or in the front, or I can go on his right side. I need to go on the left. When that happens, there's a strong chance that the dog's mindset goes into obedience rather than escorting.
Nice.
Escorting means I need to stay with a criminal.
Yeah.
And if the criminal tries to run, I'm there to get him.
Yeah.
Right? Wherever he tries to trick me, to put me, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm always ready to do so. But if the dog is dependent on one position only,
all right, yeah,
then for me, and that's a training thing, right? Which you can work with and you can change.
Yeah, when I was watching competitions and decoying on the competitions, then I've noticed that you are taking this like time to read the dog, and then you are fast, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with my skills. You know, when I gave you the example with Aaron, he's strong, so his presence for the dogs is massive. So he can use that quality in so many other exercises, right?
Definitely.
Object guard or stick, or especially accessories, right? But yeah, that's one of my skills, which helps me in other exercises as well, such as object guard or even stick attack. If I manage to block the dog, or the dog has gone around the obstacle, then then it gets closer to my skill set, and the dog is gonna have a hard time biting me, right?
Yeah.
Because then the rules allow me to do certain things to keep the dog away from biting me. So I know my limits, which is strength, right? I can't really push a dog that much unless I synchronize it.
All right,
like
makes
sense. To the thinnest detail. But on the other hand, if the dog has missed a bite, then it's going to be quite difficult for the dog to get back and have a bite.
What do you have like any, I don't know, magical or special moment that you experience on the competition or the training field that is just stuck to your mind?
Yes, in 2022, the dog that was world champion in category 2, he was very famous for the way he was doing search and escort. And I envisioned how I'm going to take the points. Obviously, it didn't happen how I pictured it, but I managed to take the points, a good amount of points during the escort, which is very hard to take it from that dog.
What's the dog?
The dog belongs to a guy called Joel Clark.
Yeah,
he's representing the USA.
He's originally from Belgium.
Yes,
am I right?
Yeah. He's famous as a decoy and as a handler as well. And his dog was at that time he's still competing with the dog. He was USA champion category 3 last year. Is a dog called Salto. So he was world champion that year in 2022. But yeah, that was spectacular because I've managed to take the points in a spectacular manner.
All right.
And the whole audience appreciated, and it was a round of applause for me and for the dog as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of stuck to me. And you know, that was one of the moments I actually felt it's not about like this is what monitoring is about.
Yeah.
Right. To get at the World Championship, you get hundreds of people, right? To get that many people paying attention and then appreciating the moment. Yeah, that was quite cool.
Nice. So you achieved so much as a decoy. Like probably like young guys that are stepping into the sport, they are dreaming to, be in your position, right? So you have been third on Super Selection.
Yep.
You've been decoying on FMBB and World Championships. You are doing shitloads of seminars across the, planet Earth.
Yeah. Well, just
what is next for Nake?
Next for Nake is definitely Super Selection this year.
All right.
Which is gonna be, I'm anticipating a tough competition.
Do you have like any extra pressure? Because like when nobody knows.
When I've done the first one, it was like, I was emotional about it, but I had one of my biggest critics with me, which is my godfather. He was there. And in the middle of the competition, he turned on and said, "You know what? I like the fact that you're relaxed."
All right.
So the emotions of doing it were there. But I managed to, after a certain age, you get, and you get experienced and you learn how to control your emotions a bit better. But I wouldn't have the same emotions I had back then. I'm looking at it more with the eyes of excitement and anticipation of the competition. The beauty of the competition is that you go against someone else. Not that you're hating the person or whatever. You're trying to prove that you can do a bit better. That's why all the different aspects of the Super Selection, where you get the physical, the theory, and then the practical as well.
So there is no extra pressure because right now, because of your accomplishment, it's kind of expected from you to kind of do better.
It is, and I expect that from myself as well. You never know what's gonna happen on the day, but if you want to say that's pressure, then I enjoy it.
All right,
right. Yeah. I take I'm not going there like, oh shit, if I'm not gonna be first or second or third, I'm gonna disappoint myself and a bunch of people. I know what I'm capable of. And if it happens to have a bad day, then it happens to I have a bad day. This doesn't mean that I won't decoy anymore, or I'm gonna put the suit in the shed and then that's it. Because it happens. Look, if you do a bit of research, you'll see decoys which have been 8th place and then they've been 2nd place, and then they've been gone back to 6th, and then they go back to. So it's not the end of the world if you don't reach the podium.
Yeah.
The important bit is to be safe.
Yeah.
Show that you know the rules. Don't do anything silly, right? And everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think, in one of our conversations or a post, like I don't remember, that it was like those 30 other guys, they had to beat you, something like that. Yeah, and then people were like, oh, we are brotherhood, like between decoys, like. Yeah. But it is just your mindset.
Yeah, it's about mindset. It's not so. Going into a Super Selection, what I said at that time, I think there were 19 or 20 people. I didn't go into the competition going, I have to be better than 20 other people.
Yeah.
20 other people have to be better than me.
Yeah.
Which changes, if you think of it, at least for me, it changes how you see yourself.
Yeah.
It changes your opinion about yourself. And when you step on that field, you have to be, you have to believe in yourself. Otherwise, if you go in thinking of the nice attack the guy did earlier, what's the point, right? Just
is it like
go there and be
your mindset? Is it coming also from football?
Oh, absolutely.
Professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we always had opponents which were better prepared, and we lost games and we learned from it. But we were also successful in some others, and that helped a lot. Which I don't see that much happening this day. Everyone's a winner this day, regardless of what.
There are participation trophies.
Yeah, participation or what, but sometimes
we are living in very weird times.
Sometimes it's a bit of toughness and knowing the difference between good and bad, right or wrong, successful or less successful, can only make you better if you continue on the path that you started.
So there is this opinion that you have good training decoys, good competition decoys, and it is very rarely that you are good at both. At least in IGP, like this is how it's perceived. But also I remember like John Rambo on one seminar, he was like giving that introduction, and he said like there are like training ones and then
I know we've been together to that seminar.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. How do you view yourself?
Myself is, I would say, I enjoy the competition a lot. In terms of training, I think at the moment, the only thing I could say is the results that I've managed to achieve speak the level that I am at. So I managed to train consistently with dogs that have been third in category 2 and FMBB world champion this year in category 1. So I think I'm doing okay, right? You know, to be able to help dogs be on the podium. I would love to train a dog or to be a consistent part of a dog that's going to be world champion one day. And I've got about 10% contribution to a dog that has been vice world champion, right? Yeah. Which I take pride in it.
Of course.
Because, you know, I've been there to give that dog that sufficient bite. That was maybe that was the thing that, you know, helped him on that specific exercise. But when it comes to training, things always change. Yeah, the competition is the competition. Nothing changes that drastically that often. But when it comes to training, and it's we can expand the conversation somewhere else if you want, but it's not just Mondio training, it's dog training in general. It always evolves and it always changes. And even I recently went in the States and I trained with Ivan Balabanov, and Jesus Christ, it's amazing. And even that changed a few things, which it wasn't like I was doing anything wrong, but it just boosted them like massively.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask you about you know, your experience with, you know, like even watching Ivan training. He's obviously like huge IGP star, but also he stepped into Mondioring with his dog. I'm not sure if
this is not the beginning for him. He's been a Mondio decoy as well. License wise.
How was it like to watch him training? Because even Michael Ellis speaks of him like very highly, that he's a savant, which means like some just talent and wizard of the dog training.
It is, because the things that I've experienced there with him, to kind of give you a small summary, he took my brain and he put all this information in it and said, now think about it and practice, which I was, I was extremely grateful of. But what's so different about how Ivan trains is the fact that there's this big emphasis that he has on play. And I've seen it with my own eyes happening with all of his dogs that he took out and we worked together. And the dogs performed with absolutely every new challenge that was thrown at them, because they knew that any obstacle that they are going to face can be overcome. And that confidence, that that power, besides, you know, there's the genetic aspect as well, but that confidence and that ability to absorb information and overcome it quickly came from, you know, you mentioned at the beginning that relationship that the dog has with its handler, and that was created through play, massively through play. And that was for me the biggest proof that, you know, training, using play in training is probably extremely valuable, and is not explored as much as
I cannot agree more. As
much as people have actually think of it. And I'll give you an example, and if he's watching this, when he's gonna watch this, I hope he's not gonna get upset.
I'm gonna send it to him.
I hope he's not gonna get upset about me saying it. So finished training one day, and we were in the bar that he has over there, and we were discussing, eating, having a drink, and his Mondio dog was there. And there was suits everywhere. We got them out in there. And then the dog was just walking around, grabbing the suit, picking it up, moving it along, putting it down, walking away. Right? And it was just so nice to see the dog just being a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then this is where, what Michael Ellis says, that he's a savant, a genius, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if he would have said, stop it, come here, lay down, or whatever, the dog would have done it, right? But he was kind of like, what you doing there, right? So he was giving the dog a bit like, okay, dad's watching me, but it seems like I can turn this into a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that dog took the suit and moved it, and then was just laying on it, and then picking up, filling his mouth, and then walking it again. To the point where the dog got the suit that close to Ivan, and got the suit. It was a pair of pants, right? Got the suit close to Ivan, looked at it, pick it up again, and Ivan stood up and put his leg in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was watching it, I realized this moment right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's what puts that cement in that confidence element, because if you dissect it, the dog had initiative, right? By picking up the suit, was paying attention. So there was a element of impulse
Mm-hmm.
control. Jesus didn't just take the suit and start dragging or for no reason. It was a bit of tactical, right? Where the dog picked up the suit and moved it, right? And the dog managed to put Ivan into a position where it started the game. So the dog was looking for that interaction, for that game element, right? And that you can't find that in any book. You can't find that. That's just feeling.
Yeah.
And he probably has that nature about play the same way I've got it about, right? Observing a dog, or when I don't think about movements. But he speculated that moment so nicely. And I could see how that plays into a future event where the dog faces an adversity he hasn't seen it before. And besides the genetical aspect, he goes, you can do this. Go on. And the relationship that was created before, based and allowing the dog to have initiative and allowing the dog to be to explore a bit, that gave the dog enough information that the dog can actually baggage it in and then use it later on, especially when it got his support over there. And again, you mentioned at the beginning when we started talking about the handler and the dog against the decoy being one of the important aspects in building that relationship.
Yeah.
This is something that I was already doing, but after I trained with Ivan, I took it to the next level.
Nice.
And that changed my view on how I can approach certain exercises. Automatically, right? So you know how sometimes decoys can tell the dog when to out, when to either it's tactile communication or sometimes verbal, so on and forth. And having a discussion with Ivan about it, it was similar to the example I gave you earlier about the dog not escorting and being obedient. Do you want the dog to be obedient to the decoy? Do you have that? Do you want the dog to have that slight piece of information in its mind that there will be a moment where I have to listen to this guy, where the purpose of the sport or the exercise, it's exactly the opposite. I'm not going to listen to you because you may tell me to go that way and you can steal the object, right? So do you want that piece of information in your dog's head? Not really, right?
No.
This doesn't mean that if a decoy does it, it's wrong, because things have been done like that for years, and dogs have been successful in the sport. But just that piece of information there, I took it and I was like, let me try it on this exercise. Oh, it works. Let me try it on this one. And I've recently made a post about search and escort where I started not to have a lead on a flat collar on my dog to move the dog where I'm going. I started to tell the handler to go give some feedback to the dog. That's what I want you to be. Right? And that changes the whole dynamic of the way you teach the dog that exercise, right? It brings the handler closer to the dog. It gives the dog the ability to understand when he's done the right thing or the wrong thing, right? Because if the handler is there to provide the good feedback by touching, verbal praise, whatever it is, the dog will understand them and will know exactly what the dog has done correctly. It's not just the reward that the dog has by me giving the dog a bite. The influence of the handler matters. And then when the dog does a mistake, the advantage is that the handler is going to go, no, this is not the right moment for you to bite, or no, don't stay in that position, go somewhere else. But the important bit is that I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Because the same way I'm going to try to coordinate the dog in training, the same way the decoy in competition is going to try to, right? And you don't want for a second the dog to think, I need to listen to this guy.
Yeah.
No, I need to pay attention because he's going to run and I need to bite him. I can't bite him now, which is in the rules. You can't give dirty bites during search and escort. You lose points. But I will bite when the decoy tries to run. And just to experience that with Ivan I didn't ask him in details, what exercise can you do it? Well, how do you do this here? And no, just that concept. And this is one of my favorite things to do not just as a decoy, because I don't know if people know, but I do know how to train a dog as normal, right? I like to take that piece of information and just play with it.
Oh, I love it. And
just explore it and fuck up with it at some point.
Yeah,
it's important to do so.
I think people like right now. You mentioned so many valuable things right now, from the fact like the play. It's such a huge part of my training. Like I never complained about control and protection, and it's purely because of the play. I pay so much attention to the play even when I'm raising a dog, but also the fact that I love it when you said you don't want the dog to be obedient to the decoy, right? And I think especially IGP right now, it became so technical and it takes the essence of the sport away, because it's like just teaching the dog to woof woof to get the ball rather than create guarding behavior and the dog that is actually protection dog or guarding dog. And the last thing is having those moments, even when you are at some level in your experience that you feel confident with your skills, and having those valuable moments where you take the piece of information and you think about that for 6 months, and then you experiment with it and you put that into your game. I had something similar when in 2019, I remember, there was one Finnish helper that came to UK, and because of I was learning helper work in Finland on the camps and in the club, so I really like this culture and approach, and I kind of soaked into it because they pay a lot of attention to the training side,
right,
to clarity of drives, clarity of emotions, right, and to the guarding phase. So kind of maybe this is why it shaped me. I always wanted to be a good training helper, and I really didn't care much about the competition side of it for IGP. But I went for this seminar, and the guy was talking about the guarding and how with the training you can make the dog sharp versus how you can build the confidence in the guarding. And that just shook my world.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's how I felt.
For the last 10 years, I was doing this fucking wrong. And I was, and then really, I went for every other seminar with the guy. And then I played with this idea of building confidence in the guarding, not sharpness. I did it with my dog. Like, my dog will bite whatever I ask him to bite. Like, that can be a person, that can be a suit, that can be a thief, right? But he will, he was trained, he's confident in the biting man. So you would say, that's fucking real bite work.
Yeah.
But he's such a safe dog in the same time. Like, I posted video, like he was playing in the, town center in like in the fountain with children, and he's a safe dog because he's not feeling like there is a threat and he has to use his weapons, right? So that was a mind-blowing moment for me with this Finnish trainer. But I love it, like those moments, even you are experienced in what you do, and having that.
Yeah, and it's it's fascinating, I would say. And when you're there, actually seeing it, experiencing it, living it, then all the information that was verbally transmitted before through podcasts and stuff like that, you can see it coming to life. And because we're talking about play, why does play have such an important role in development, in training? And in one of these podcasts, he says, well, play, it's something that's genetically ingrained, right? Which it's a need that you have to fulfill somehow, right? And the example of, we are the best at creating games out of anything. Yeah. That just gives you the answer of why would we do that? Like, why would we just make a game out of anything, right? If we take the bottle of water now, I'm pretty sure we can make a game out of so in the space of 5 minutes.
I don't know,
right?
Like I was raised in the the times where there was no video games available and this sort of things, and you would take the stick and you would play with the stick, and this is
like my times as well,
right?
But because now there's been more research done for it, and you can't deny that play has a significant role. And if you don't want to go that much into detail, just look at his dogs, man. Like, all of them are ready to play. Like, there were people there which we trained with, that were students of his school, and they were successful dog business owners. And the way that thing, that experience shaped them as people, as professional dog trainers, had a big influence for them, business wise as well. But even training, small details and everything was based on play. And he's doing all these podcasts where he's shouting out of his lungs, play is important, pay attention to it. It's more valuable than you think. More valuable than you think. And people are still, doubting it. I was privileged enough to be there and witness it. And then, I try it in my day-to-day job. I try it at my club, and it works, man. I'm not documenting absolutely everything, but it's not one dog I've tried it with, right? So many dogs. I can't even remember names of the dogs, but it does work. And if anyone ever has the chance to see him or train with him, just it's gonna be mind blowing.
So that was the question from the audience,
right?
I asked send me questions to Nake, And that was one of the questions, like, what are the odds that Ivan will become Mondioring world champion?
If he wants to, he will.
All right.
Right. If he wants to, he definitely will become world champion, because I've seen the. I'll try to say it without saying too much. I've seen the quality of the training going alongside with the genetic aspect of the dog, and I've seen it successful in multiple exercises.
Just right.
And when you train, you have different things that you train for, and you sometimes train to help the dog, sometimes train in the form of let's test a bit what the dog has understood. And based on my humble experience, I would say dogs are really like if he wants to.
All right.
And it's not me talking because I know him and we're friends, and it's the man has been world champion.
Oh yeah.
In IGP, which is a total different sport than Mondioring, but it's the same. There's rules. There's things you need to point out when you're if I'm not wrong, it's obedience, you got jumps, you got tracking, and you got the protection, right? So different aspects which at different levels that need to highlight certain training aspects and certain genetical aspects in the dog as well. And if you've become world champion at that twice, and then you've been national champion multiple times, and you know how the rules in other sports are done as well. If he wants to become world champion, I think he will become world champion.
Yeah,
and I don't think he's going to go at the world championship to be in the first 10, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I remember him saying that he was like excited again about the training when he stepped into Mondioring. Because like the guy accomplished so much in IGP, and at some point I can imagine, I don't know if that was his case, but like all the champions or successful people, they climb to some level, and then what next? Right, I've been world champion. I accomplished everything. Right, and then what next? Like, what am I doing? Like, am I going to go, with again to accomplish the same thing? But he mentioned that he got like very excited about the dog training, which is,
Yeah, that's and I've witnessed that firsthand. It's not just the sport of Mondioring. That when I was there, we were discussing different things about dogs and training and in general, and you can see obviously we can see the experience, but you can see his touch in it, because certain things that we discussed and the way he looked at them were totally different than what you knew until then. And again, not saying that things that you knew before were incorrect, but his own personal view from a perspective that you didn't even think of looking at that specific exercise or concept of an exercise. It was quite fascinating to experience.
Yeah. Speaking of different sports, have you tried anything different than Mondioring, or how did that happen that you ended up with Mondioring? Like, have you tried, like right now PSA is like very hot and growing rapidly. Have you thought to or considered to try other things, or
no?
You're purist.
Mondio happened, and I just got stuck with it. Although I'm saying this, when I went to the States and I've done some seminars there, I practiced, trained some dogs for French ring as well. Obviously, elements of French ring are in Mondioring as well. So French ring would be the closest thing that I would, let's say Mondio stops tomorrow. If you would ask me, what would you do? I would say French ring. Now, French ring has a powerful culture in France USA, Mexico, I think. But unfortunately, it hasn't reached, the length of how Mondio has reached, where it's practiced in so many countries. But yeah, French ring would be my closest option as a sport. PSA, I personally, I'm okay watching it. I didn't dive too much into detail about it. I can understand the concept of it, although I have my questions about certain elements, in there. At the end of the day, it's again another sport that brings people together. Brings people to have structured training sessions, brings people to think, and nonetheless it establishes a good relationship between them and their dog, which is probably the main thing that's going to come out of it.
If there was like anything that you would like to, like if you could, like to change in Mondioring, like any exercise or anything, or what you don't like, you think it could be done different way, what would that be?
You probably know the answer, probably the flea attack.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, flea attack is the least favorite exercise by the decoys, because it's you can't look at the dog. You just need to be ready, right? And you need to run in a certain way. Your body position needs to be in a certain way. And some dogs come at you with a reasonable speed. Some dogs just come like trains. And they'll just, I remember you had a few few flea attacks at the field, right? And you saw they're not easy to do. So I wouldn't take the exercise out, but even changing it wouldn't be fair either. So if there would have been a better way to do it, that's the exercise I would change.
All right. So on top of the being decoy, you are also, at least like my impression, you are family man.
Yeah.
Like you,
I am.
I looked at your Facebook, and you post so much about your daughter. What was her name?
Eileen.
Yeah, and your wife and your brother.
Right.
Right. How do you manage your full-time job, family, your little daughter, and a passion?
Right.
Because like dog sports, it's time-consuming activity. Right,
it is,
it's so much, it's very hard even to express. Regardless what dog sport you are doing, it's so time consuming. You're pretty much like all the weekends you are like on the training field.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, it's time management, understanding. My wife is supportive of what I do, but at the same time, I can't do the other things that I'm responsible for, right? I've got, we've got a family, my wife, my daughter. We kind of know exactly our work schedule. We kind of know which of us has what responsibility and when to switch it and when to share it, and how to split our time between work and the time with our daughter. And my daughter goes to school now, so she's got her own thing which we need to pay attention to, and then comes the job, and then the sport, and then me traveling here and there to do competitions or seminars or selections or whatever. So as long as there's a clear communication of how things should happen now or in 6 months' time or in 1 year's time. Obviously, variables can happen and cancellations or new things may appear. Someone texted me yesterday about going back to Finland to have a seminar there. It just showed up, right? So I need to accommodate that if I want to go, but I need to arrange with work, and then all the logistical aspects of it. Nonetheless, my family comes first.
Yeah.
Especially my little one.
Yeah. Has it been any time difficult? I remember your post about after the super selection that you came third, but it felt like first because of some things you had to overcome.
Yeah, so I had to overcome the fact that I waited so much time for getting my license back. When you move countries, you have to relicense. If you're more than 6 months in a country, you have to represent that country, you have to relicense again. So I waited for that a long time. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And then there was a year of not doing any competition. And then slowly you had to come back to normality somehow. And then I used to go to work, finish work, go to train myself for the super selection during the weekend, go at the training field, train with the dogs, find the time to spend with my little one. Then, when I mentioned that in that post, I found understanding from my wife, which was, she realized how important that was for me to do. And she, substituted me when there was time to do things that I was supposed to do, so on and forth. Although, when I left for the super selection, she said to me, if you don't come back first, you ain't coming back home. But it was acceptable. I got on the podium, right?
This is what they say, behind every successful man there is like supportive woman.
Yeah, and I remember when I made that post, I said, obviously I thanked her for the support and stuff. And what you said about third place feeling like first place, her reply was, "Did you just say this so you can come back home?" Right. So I appreciate the support my wife has given to me throughout the years. It hasn't been easy, especially when you've got a child, and working in traveling and working and family and school and so on and forth. It's not easy, but it's you do the best with what you got, and at the moment it managed to get some decent results throughout the time, and I'm pretty happy with what I have achieved. If I was in Belgium, where the legacy of sport it's that big, where people come out of their house, go to the back garden, they've got their module field. 6 on a street, right?
Yeah.
That's and I understand that that's the culture there. That's how things are being done there.
Of course, like I don't have like great details about your situation, but also taking into account that we just came to this country and you have your family, and there is no auntie that you will ask to stay with or support you, like the majority of us, we are here alone with a group of friends.
So which is no different for myself. That's why when events like that happen, I was grateful for both of our families back home. They would come here when I would be away for a long period of times, and they would be there, especially my wife's parents. So yeah, it worked somehow, but it's logistically, it's time spent, money spent. It's not easy even for family back home to come here for a week or two, right? They've got stuff to do. It's,
of course.
It's
not like
they
will squeeze into their schedule, right? Pick up the kids from
that's
the
why
school.
Thinking of planning things ahead, it's the best way to go possible.
It is very impressive. It is very impressive to combine that. You mentioned, like people are coming into the dog sports and they are surprised. Oh, this dog was training for 2 years, right? But it's not like it's so much commitment. And if you want to do it on the highest level, you have to put the time in and have passion for it, and without the guarantee of the return. So
exactly, Yeah. So, but everything that you're going to do there is going to actually teach you some good things that you're probably going to find valuable for the future. And most likely you're going to find them valuable exactly when you don't think you're going to need them. But without a bit of sacrifice and a bit of patience, I'm going to insist on this, might as well just not try. Just, stay out of it.
So you mentioned you were a professional football player, right?
I was.
Your brother is.
Yeah.
Right? You are both athletes, right? Which I find very interesting. And you're both successful in
whatever we do,
whatever you do. Yeah. By the way, I wanted to ask you, can you keep a secret?
I think so.
Yeah. What about the TV?
The TV. It depends. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but
so I you and your brother as children, you were playing football in the house,
right?
And he hit the TV with his elbow,
right?
And that's supposed to be your secret,
right? Yeah. And
then on the way to, how was it? On the way to your rooms?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a secret, but on the way to the rooms, I probably told my dad, didn't I?
Yeah.
That wasn't a good outcome for my brother.
Yeah, he mentioned that. He mentioned that it wasn't funny for him back then, but it is right now.
It is
something what I wanted to mention, because you're both successful athletes, and I just want to read what your brother said. Right? He's my brother. I love him. I will always love him. He's the best brother in the world. Any man will want the brother like him for me. He's the greatest dog trainer, and I will always be thankful because of his support for me. And he inspired me to become a professional footballer.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for that. It's nice to hear those words from my brother. When I was younger, I played football before him, and he used to watch me, and then I gave up on football and went to college, university, and then he started playing it, and then he was successful in his career as well. I love my brother as well, and it's actually he's actually gonna come and visit on in December for Christmas, and I'm looking forward for that. But yeah, you see, these things are the things that people don't see in terms of sacrifices. When I moved to England, I left my brother back home, which I don't see very often. But we've got a good relationship. We speak pretty often, and
how they say, everybody wants to see a view, nobody wants to climb. Everybody are jealous of the success, but nobody wants to see the training field or the sacrifices do in order to get there. Right? It's just easy to be jealous or bitter about that. So one of those things. Are you getting sausage dog for your daughter?
No, I'm not. How do you know that?
Oh, I did my research, mate.
Oh, did you?
Apparently, your face wasn't impressed when she said she wants to.
No, she said purely because she saw a sausage dog on the street, and she said, "Daddy, what's that?" I told her the name of the breed, and she was like, "How do you say that?" And I said, "Just call it a sausage dog." And she said, "I want one." And then she randomly saw another one a few days later and said, "I want a sausage dog." And I said, "The best I can do for you, it's a basset hound." I'll go with that one. But yeah, I ain't getting no sausage dog. And to be fair, I answer this question all the time. I just gave you example of my schedule, not in detail, but school, work, traveling, training. It wouldn't be fair to have a dog right now.
Oh yeah.
For me, for the dog, just because we don't have the time to have that. So when people ask me, do you have a dog that you're gonna compete with? Not yet.
Yeah.
Once I stop from competing and just stick to training, then I'll probably have my
dog. Like what do you think? Because of course it's like physically demanding decoying.
Yeah,
it's physically demanding and hard on your body. How long you wanna excel and kick ass in?
So in terms of competing, getting my license renewed this year, which is going to be valid for 4 more years, is going to push me up to the age of 40 of being a licensed decoy. So probably that will be my maximum time allocated to competing. Training, it's different. I can go for a lot of time. I mean, when I went to Ivan, he decoyed with some dogs. He's 62, I think.
All right.
So,
impressive.
Right?
Impressive.
So it's you can't really put obviously my movements are not going to be the same as a 20-year-old. But the experience is going to be there, so on and forth. So in terms of competing, probably this is going to be my last 4 years. But you never know. At the World Championship where I've been, my good friend from Romania, Madalin Dragan, he's done World Championship category 3 at 43 years old.
All right.
Yeah, there was a guy in Spain who was doing the flea attacks. I think he was 44 or something, or 46.
Oh man!
So you can go as much as you think you're physically ready to do so, but at some point, you probably need to.
Yeah. Speaking of your friends, like one of them asked me. I'm not gonna tell you which one, but you will know apparently. Like ask you about the dog Atim from Romania,
right?
Horatiu
Lukac.
I'm butchering that.
Horatiu Lukac, yeah.
What is the story behind this dog?
The story behind this dog is one of the first dogs that I've worked in Modio. And this dog was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
He was big. He was powerful. And he's one of the first dogs that I experienced on the suit.
Mm-hmm.
Leg bites, arm bites. As he was getting older and more experienced, he preferred to go up on the upper part of the body, and he was a pain.
All right.
Because he was 40 something kilos.
Oh yeah.
And he was fast, and his bite was.
It's one of those dogs that you remember.
Yeah.
All right.
And you don't. One of the best teachers that you can have, right?
Yeah.
Because you learn with a dog with that force, you learn how to move in a suit that when he catches you, you move in a certain way so you don't allow him to put that much pressure, so it doesn't hurt that much, right? But yeah, he was one of the first dogs that I trained in a structured manner for monitoring. Unfortunately, my friend Horatiu passed away a few years ago. And yeah, Horatiu, the owner of Atim, he was the guy that actually gave me my first suit to train in, to compete in. So I'm very grateful for him and for the experiences I had. So yeah, that brings back good memories.
Nice, man. Something what I wanted to ask you about. You are working in rescue center. We don't have to take the names, right?
Yeah.
What is your take of, because, okay, maybe let's put it into some context. There is a saying that in the UK, it's easier to adopt the child than adopt the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced that like first line.
Right.
What is your take on, that process?
I think it depends.
Because you know that from inside, right?
Yeah.
Then you probably know like other rescues as well, like how they functioning.
I think it depends on organization to organization. From my experience with the organization I work with, I would say it's pretty fair, pretty straight going forward. Sometimes they're good matches, sometimes they're less good matches, and those less good matches can go either way. It can be that the dog is not a fan of them people. It can be that the people get there, meet the dog and go, no, and then there's no other suitable match for them, so on and forth. Not everything is like that. I think I'm in a good position where the system that we work with is pretty fair for the dogs and for the people. And obviously not everyone's going to be happy, right? You'll get the people who will wait a bit longer, or they'll meet, like I said, they'll meet the dog, or the person who introduces them to the dog, they don't like that person, or they don't like, I mean, it's all sorts of variables. But I do know that there are processes which are extremely difficult out there. One of the most recent examples I came across, I can't remember the name of the organization, but there was a dog that was lost, and it was found by the police or the wardens, whatever it was, and he was handed into the rescue center that they were collaborating with. And then that rescue center, I can't remember the name, but they had a procedure of how people would be able to help that dog. And someone saw the post on social media and said, hey, that's my dog.
All right.
But they wouldn't get the dog back because someone had looked into that person and they didn't like something about what they did, what equipment they were using with the dog, so on and forth. So I get it that there are difficult journeys out there somehow. I don't know, do you have any experience?
So yeah, like my girlfriend, my future wife, she got upset.
Congratulations.
With one Malinois girl, and the dog was year old. There was some, like at the beginning we thought like it was in 5 houses. Later on they said like it's like one house, that it wasn't a good match. But the dog has some issues, to say it lightly, right? And then when we applied for this dog, so there is like dog trainer, and I had like Malinois for God knows how many years and how many of them, right? Quite a few, right? And then I can say like, I think like I'm quite experienced with the breed. And there is a vet surgeon, cardiologist, like, so we applied for the dog, and it was so fucking hard. It took months and months and months to actually get this dog out of the rescue. And, then, I got like some other stories where, like people were just refused. No, you're not getting that dog. And I honestly, I started to think that maybe somewhere over there is someone that doesn't like me, or what is happening? Is there a shortage of Malinois in the rescues?
Probably
like
not.
they just want to keep them for themselves. Like, and my conclusion was, that I'm not surprised anymore that people will take those dogs from Eastern Europe, where they can, bypass all the procedures, and they will take it like from the van. Because it's easier and you don't have to tick so many boxes. And, like, I want to tell you about the details, but maybe off air, what was the difficulties, like, in getting that dog, like, finally, like, luckily, like, like, to be fair, like, with amount of the issues this dog has, like, I was terrified. Like, probably this is the first time when I'm saying publicly about the situation, right? I just posted like 1 or 2 photos on Instagram so far. But yeah, like the journey, it was a ride. It wasn't easy. And it's just like because of my girlfriend, she was like fighting for this dog and she wouldn't let it go. And, otherwise, probably she would be in the kennel. I don't see anyone taking this dog. Let me put it this way. Like I later on I will tell you what the dog is like, but I'm not seeing like someone that is not professional taking this dog.
Right. And yeah, there are cases like that. You know, it's dogs come with all sorts of traits, good or bad, that require a certain level of experience, which, if I anticipate correctly, is what you presented you had, and then there was a refusal, God knows what for. Yeah, unfortunately it happens, and you know, it's something that probably will continue to happen. Fortunately,
no, because I never thought I would have the dog from the rescue. Like, you know, if I want to be involved in the sport, and you know, IDP is my passion, and there is like as many dogs as I can have, like at the time. Like my dog is retired, and then I never wanted to have like more than 2 dogs. Like 2 is quite a good kind of balance,
manageable, balanced amount.
Yeah, and I was like super surprised how difficult the process was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Where I work, the process. It's somehow easier. The dogs are assessed to fit a certain criteria. Those people that looking to adopt a dog express that criteria to whatever the online questionnaire and format is, or over the phone, and then everyone has requests, and I want, you know, a big dog or small dog, I want this breed, or I want something close to this breed, or dog this age, so on and forth. And then the matching system, based on the information that we have about the animals and about the people, bring it to 100% match or less because of this element, so on and forth. So it's at the end of the day, you are getting to a stage where you're getting a living creature.
Yeah, definitely.
And anything on a paper can disappear just like that, right? Yeah. This is the thing with, you know, dog training in general. And it's working with a dog, no matter how many books you've read and videos you've studied. When you are there with the dog and the dog does something that doesn't match or doesn't fit into any book or video you've seen, then you go, what the fuck now? What do we do now? And that's where the practicality and the feeling and the, you know, comes into
the only good
place.
side that I see, like, from that process is that, you know, I don't know if every person goes through the same route as we did, but you really need to want that dog, right? Like, because otherwise, like, I can imagine, like, I would quit. I'm quite honest about that. Because my partner, she pushed and she pushed and she pushed, because I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing it, right? But like, she pushed, so this, and you know, just make sure you really want that dog. And then, you know,
you'll get
something that is harder to get, you know, tastes better. Right?
Probably.
Yeah. But anyway, you're the man. Like, let's wrap this bitch up. You have like some obligations. And thank you so much. Thank you
for having me.
Being
I said we were gonna do this in the past, but finally managed to do it. So thank you very much for having me. And you know where my training field is. Bring Fufik out of retirement. Like he would be happy to like stretch some. No, I bet. Yeah.
Go. Thank you so much. You're a legend. And
thank you very much for having me.
Do it maybe again sometime.
Sometime soon.
Yeah. Cool. Bye.